I mean, just picture this for a second. We're talking about a creature more massive than any dinosaur that ever walked the Earth. Heavier than a fully loaded commercial airplane. It is honestly kind of hard to wrap your head around that sheer scale, right? But here's the kicker. Despite being so monumentally huge, it doesn't hunt big animals. It doesn't chase down massive prey. Instead, it survives and thrives by eating some of the absolute smallest creatures in the entire ocean. That is the day-to-day life of a blue whale.
And that naturally brings up a pretty puzzling biological mystery. Logically, you'd think fish would be the perfect food for a giant beast, right? I mean, they're big, they're packed with nutrients, and they're literally everywhere. So why would such a massive animal completely bypass them and depend on something microscopic?
Well, to solve this, we really need to look at their anatomy. More specifically, we need to look at what is completely missing from a blue whale's mouth: teeth. They literally just don't have them. Instead, they rely on this built-in biological filter called baleen. It's basically these long, flexible plates hanging down from the roof of their mouth, and it acts a lot like a giant comb or a thick, bristly brush. And honestly, this highly specialized biological brush, it's the key to their entire existence.
So how does this built-in comb actually work in the wild? Let's break down this filter feeding process step by step. First, the whale opens its jaws impossibly wide and just rushes straight into a dense swarm of krill. Second, it takes in an absolutely unfathomable amount of water along with all that krill. Get this, in a single gulp, a blue whale can take in a volume of water that actually weighs more than its own massive body. Crazy, right? Third, it closes its mouth, flexes its huge throat, and pushes all that ocean water back out right through those baleen plates. The water escapes easily, but the tiny krill, they're securely trapped inside the comb. And finally, step 4, the whale just swallows its trapped meal.
Okay, so now we know how they eat, but let's look closer at what they eat. You might be wondering, why not just use this giant gulping method on a school of fish? Well, fish are bigger, they're much faster, and most importantly, they're spread out. If a whale wanted a mouthful of fish, it would actually have to actively chase them down. Krill, on the other hand, behave totally differently. They form these incredibly dense swarms. We're talking millions of them packed super tightly together. They don't scatter quickly, and they don't escape easily. This allows the blue whale to just glide right through this concentrated cloud of food without a frantic, chaotic chase.
This whole dynamic really highlights a simple physical reality about their bodies. Their sheer size gives them immense power, but zero agility. If a blue whale actually tried to eat fish, it would have to actively pursue them. It would need to, turn on a dime, use explosive speed, and have pinpoint precision. But these magnificent creatures just aren't built for aquatic acrobatics. They're slow, steady giants. Their monumental size makes them incredibly powerful, but it completely strips away the agility you'd need to zigzag around and hunt down fast-moving fish.
So what's the core motive behind this entire biological setup? It all comes down to energy economics. Every single animal needs energy to survive, obviously, but how they get it is what really matters. Chasing fish takes intense effort. Swimming fast, changing directions, burning massive amounts of calories, and there's absolutely no guarantee of success. The fish could just swim away. But gliding through a massive, practically unmoving cloud of krill, that is the absolute definition of energy efficiency. It's all about getting the absolute maximum amount of energy while using the absolute least amount of effort.
And by perfecting this super efficient, low-effort method, a blue whale can consume a staggering amount of food. 4 tons. That's thousands of kilograms of krill in a single day during feeding season. Just let that sink in for a second. Gathering 4 tons of food, one tiny microscopic creature at a time. It is a mathematical and biological marvel. And it's only possible because the whale isn't out there wasting precious energy hunting down fast prey.
Now, you might still be thinking, well, wouldn't it just be easier if they eventually evolved to eat fish? But evolution doesn't just suddenly redesign an animal overnight. It builds incredibly slowly, over millions of years. Over countless generations, blue whales adapted perfectly to this specific environment. They literally traded teeth for baleen. They grew larger and larger. Their entire bodies, from the exact shape of their mouth to the immense capacity of their throat, became utterly specialized for bulk feeding. So making a sudden switch to eating fish now, it's biologically impossible. Their system is permanently set, and honestly, it works ridiculously well for them.
This actually brings up a really fascinating contrast in the ocean's ecosystem. On one side, you have the hunters. Think sharks, dolphins, even some whales like orcas fall squarely into this category. They have sharp teeth, they're super agile, they swim incredibly fast, and they actively bite and tear their prey. But on the other side, you have the harvesters. Blue whales are entirely different. They don't hunt, they harvest. They're these slow, steady giants equipped with baleen
just cruising through the ocean like colossal biological water filters, calmly taking in the massive amounts of food that are already just floating right there.
There is a catch, though. This incredible evolutionary specialization comes with a very serious vulnerability. What if the krill disappeared? Because the blue whale's entire feeding system, its whole anatomy really, is built exclusively around harvesting dense swarms of this specific tiny prey, a sudden drop in krill numbers would be absolutely devastating. They aren't flexible eaters. They can't just pivot and say, actually, scratch that, I guess I'll catch tuna today. If the krill vanish, these mighty giants would instantly struggle to survive. Their greatest strength is also undeniably their greatest dependency.
So let's quickly distill all this down. The biological logic is pretty crystal clear. These massive creatures completely ignore fish because they don't have teeth, relying instead on baleen designed specifically for tiny prey. Their bulk filter feeding method strictly requires dense, tightly packed swarms of food. Fish are just way too fast and far too spread out to be caught in a giant gulp, and honestly, chasing them would waste way too much vital energy. Ultimately, their anatomy has been completely locked into efficient bulk filter feeding over millions of years of evolution.
Ultimately, this explainer reveals a really profound truth about nature. We usually associate massive size and power with, dominance, aggression, and fierce hunting. But the blue whale proves that true power isn't always about aggression. Sometimes, the absolute most powerful thing you can be is highly efficient. For the largest animal to ever grace the earth, efficiency, not ferocity, is the ultimate survival tool. It's what has kept them alive and thriving.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder. If the largest animal ever to exist relies on pure, peaceful efficiency rather than aggressive hunting, what other mighty creatures in the natural world have mastered this art of low-effort, high-yield survival? Are there other giant harvesters out there hiding in plain sight, quietly outsmarting the fierce hunters of the world? It really completely changes how we look at power in nature, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the fascinating world around you.